Hey, so we're back. I thought something to do would be for me to read some stuff that I have been thinking about in starting an actual community of like people in the physical world. And I think that might help reflect what I hope to do with this online space as well. Not everything will apply. But my dream is to have them kind of both coexist and work in tandem. So my idea is to create this space called Current Spirit Center. And Current is I guess the tagline would be where the flow of spirit meets the now. And that is because I conceive of current as a pun. One of the ways is the now piece, like current events. And the other piece of it for me is I feel like the spirit is kind of a current in the world, as in like a water current kind of thing. It's a feeling, it's a movement, it's amorphous. It doesn't necessarily have form, but it moves in the world, and it is in us, part of us, through us. It's movement. So, yeah, that's kind of what I imagine. And so, what do I imagine this place looking like? Well, I mean, I'm in school, just kind of dreaming about this in the back of my head. But as I mentioned, I'm a Christian. But I kind of want to reimagine what I think church can be. And yeah, so I don't want church to be the center, or I don't want worship to be the center of church life. I know that sounds crazy because that's been our model for so long, but Sunday mornings aren't everyone's thing. I want to create a community center whose focus is service and self-betterment. It's a place where people come together to become better people working for a better world. Maybe you're not into choir robes and pews. Maybe you want to help feed the hungry, educate yourself about human trafficking, and attend a yoga class on Wednesday nights. Great. Maybe you want to do an early morning hike and tend a community garden and do therapeutic collages. Great. Maybe you want to help kids with homework, sing in the church choir, and offer piano lessons to underserved youth. Great. Maybe you want to meditate with a group one morning a week, do a Tuesday night Bible study, and do some environmental activism. Great. Maybe you want to come to educational opportunities, a book group, and learn to shop ethically and sustainably. Great. All of these things are church. And I think we need to get away from the idea that in order to live a life of service and compassion, you need to get up early on a Sunday and get talked at by some dude in a robe or dude in a suit, or I don't know, whatever pastors wear in your tradition. Church should be more than an hour on Sunday. And I don't mean that to mean like worship should last 5 hours. If you're into 5-hour worship, like that's cool, but that's not what I mean. Church is buying a meal for the man who sleeps under the overhang of your workplace. Church is sitting down and listening to a woman who just lost her partner. Church is reading scripture and looking for meaning with your peers. Church is finding silence in a noisy, busy world. Church is forgoing dinner out so you can donate to a child's education. I don't want people's understanding of a good church member to be focused on how frequently they show up on Sunday morning. That's silly. Sunday morning is wonderful for some of us, but it shouldn't be the center of what we do. And I don't think it's the center of what our prominent religious figures would have suggested a spiritual life should be about. So, more practically, Here are some of the things that I imagine my church doing and having. I realize that some of these dreams are more practical than others, and I realize that some of them don't translate into this video because some of them require community, some of them require space, some of them require like temporal dialogue, some of them require skill sets that I don't specifically have. Like one of these things like that I would love to do would be like an ESL class or a language exchange. That's not in my skill set, at least not right now, because I'm not fluent in any language other than English. But I would imagine that there would be people in my community who would have other skill sets and that could offer them to the community. And that's what I think a community can be about, is about sharing skills and resources and love with each other. But anyway, so what do I think it should look like? Like a series of classes on major world traditions like Buddhism, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, etc. For adults and couples, for adults, that couples emic and etic perspectives and highlights internal diversities. So I'll explain that a little bit. I studied comparative religion in my undergraduate work, so I do have some of that skill set. But I also think what emic and etic mean, those are some kind of weird words, right? Emic means within a community, and etic is from without. So I studied religion in undergrad from an etic perspective because I was not a member of most of the traditions that I was studying. So I was studying it as an outside observer, trying to make observations and things like that, like a social scientist. Versus my experience of Christianity is kind of different because I am a Christian and I have views that are not based on science. They're not based on history. They're based more in my feelings and stuff like that, right? And so my perspective that I bring to things that I am a part of will be different than my perspective that I bring to things that I'm not a part of. And I think when we talk about religion, it's really important to talk about it with people who are part of the religion as well as people who are not part of the religion and study it from an academic perspective. Because both of those perspectives are really important in actually understanding what's going on. Because a person within a community is going to have certain biases, and a person outside of a community is not going to be able to understand things in the same way and to the same degree that a person inside the community will have. So both of those perspectives are really important. So yeah, I think that those are important when we talk about spiritual communities, and I would love to see a spiritual community that took seriously engaging with other traditions. Offering fellowship around meals. Clearly that's something that can't totally happen over the internet, but a group who visits new restaurants in town and or enjoys meals in various homes or at church following evening worship or something like that. Offering cooking and nutrition classes, which can highlight environmentally friendly, conscious, healthy cooking. That may or may not be something I can do here. I'm not necessarily a cook, but I do believe in ethical eating. Gallery showings for local artists. Again, not necessarily something I can do here. I hope to share other YouTube videos and stuff like that because other people are good at things in ways that I'm not and have different resources than I do and all that kind of stuff. So I think I'm hoping to create a blog where I can post these videos, but as well as other videos and sometimes sort of transcripts of what I write, because that might be more or less useful. Especially when I'm citing things and talking about like a book or whatever. Anyway, so I think it would be really cool to have a church that used its wall space to offer to local artists, maybe for free, to promote art and social literacy in the community, and that also offers an opportunity for artists to showcase their work and make a living. Involvement in Green Faith programs. It's an organization that works with congregations and faith traditions to work on environmental justice. A film group to watch inspirational and informative films and documentaries at church or in theaters if new ones are being released and discuss them. Part of what I'm working on is actually a Buffy discussion guide, primarily aimed at like a family home evening model where like parents can talk about the television show with their adolescents or teenagers and maybe maybe watching an hour of television can help incite dialogue about other things in life. So I'm starting some videos on that, and I think that this would maybe loop in well with the idea of a spiritual community online, to help you connect to other people in your life too. So let's talk about Buffy, because I love Buffy. Anyway, a retail space. Now, maybe this is weird, but I love it so much. A retail space that can offer ethically sourced items for spiritual growth and ethical consumerism. So, candles, yoga mats, books, fair trade coffee, local rice, handcrafted items from Palestine, local artwork, etc. And then that retail space could fund the church, because also, like, this tithing model, kind of weird. Why not have this kind of reciprocal relationship? And why not anyway. Worship that can be rooted in old ritual, like communion, prayer, etc., that doesn't get to this like crazy dogmatic space of like, you should believe this and you should do this and you should blah blah blah. I'm an angry man or whatever. I think we could get back to more simple ways of practicing spirit, like sharing meals with some people, like eating something with intentionality, like communion. I'm not sure if you're hearing my stomach right now, but I'm sorry. I'm hungry. Eucharist that's also a food collection. I think that would be so cool if when you came up to receive Eucharist, you also like gave a can of beans. Obviously, can't really do that on the internet again. But these are ideas that I have and that I think are cool, and that, like, if you're a part of a community, maybe suggest some of them if you think they're cool and that your community could do something like that. Monthly community meals that are free. Religious scholarship book group. I think part of the problem with religion in this country is that in a lot of ways it can be really ignorant. We think that just because we can read that we understand it, and the Bible is like complex, and all scripture, this is true of all scripture. Most of it, a lot of it is written super long time ago in a super different setting and in a super different language, and to think that we really understand what those people were getting at and why they were saying the things they were saying can be kind of arrogant. And so, scholarship I think is important to religion, but religion can often resist scholarship. Youth fellowship, because obviously. ESL classes, a community computer lab that can offer computer help classes that can help people who come from different age demographics. Like, there are certain age groups who are not necessarily good at working computers. There are certain cultures that are not necessarily good at working computers. There are there are plenty of challenges to technology, and I will freely admit that it's not my strong suit. And gosh, wouldn't it be great if our church could offer something like that? It could help us connect to each other better, couldn't it? Youth fellowship. I already said that. Sorry. Guided meditation and prayer sessions. Covenanted, body positive, logo free, technology free yoga. Non-appropriative yoga. An honor system library. Periodic justice and education trips. A community garden. Childcare center and preschool with scholarship availability or a sliding scale structure. Sunday evening worship that is followed by a community meal. Activism and volunteerism with local and international organizations as seen fit by the community. Online resources for personal growth, or maybe a YouTube channel that can reach people in a variety of places and levels of participation in the community. A variety of worship opportunities that happen organically and as people feel led and in need. Sometimes things need to pop up, like we had an election recently, and the day after the election, my community had a fairly spontaneous, kind of last-minute planned prayer service. sometimes that's necessary. We can have regularly scheduled things, but sometimes the world demands our presence. So, yeah. A variety of worship opportunities are important, I think. Community pantry and a progressive Christian private school, I think would be very cool. Obviously, there's like a long list of things that are within my skill set, not within my skill set, within my means, not within my means. Most of them are probably not within my means, but you can't reach a dream that you haven't dreamed, right? So, whatever. I don't know. So, this is a malleable list. It's I'll revise it as I think of things, and I expand on what I mean maybe. But if you have ideas or questions, I welcome them. But maybe that kind of gives you an idea of where I sit, where I stand, what I hope faith can look like in the future. And I think it's pretty different than what we have traditionally done, or at least that we've done in modern history in the past few centuries or whatever. So, yeah, maybe that gives you an idea of what we can expect here, the kinds of conversations I hope to have about different traditions, about different ways of thinking about things, about really like progressive new kinds of theologies that we don't necessarily hear about in our communities, because I promise you that a lot of what you hear in churches is just this regurgitated stuff, and it doesn't reflect well the kinds of educations that people are getting before they go into church work. But too many people just go back to the same old thing and don't talk about like queer theology or post-colonial theology or black theology or liberation theology. And if you don't know what any of those things are, but you show up to church every Sunday, or you have showed up to church every Sunday in the past and you've never heard about those things, then that may illustrate to you how poorly some pastors utilize their educations. So, yes, I think we need to change church. I think we need to change the world. And these are some of the ideas that I think about. And maybe they help give you an idea of the kinds of conversations I hope we can have here and the kinds of topics I hope we can talk about here. About reimagining, reframing, and loving each other. So I'll see you again soon, I guess.